Hello and welcome to the Walk in Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today we are going to talk about Shalom in the home. I like that'd be a really bad Christian rap song.
I was literally just thinking about how I wish I had like a
Shalom in the home. Here we go.
I said Shalom in the home.
Thank you for listening and thank you for making us a part of our week, your week, you beautiful butt clenchers. So happy you're here. And we really appreciate the comments on the YouTube and on the new Walk in Love podcast Instagram and the sharing of the stories. We had this plan. We're going to post a Instagram reel every day of the podcast clips. And we were doing it for 4 days.
If that's not like a manifestation of everyone's plans ever smashing into real life, here's what we're gonna do.
I'm gonna eat super healthy. I'm gonna work out every day.
Every single day, I'm gonna run for 4 hours. I'm never gonna eat chocolate again. 2 days later, have you tried this new Ben and Jerry's?
And I'm dying.
Yeah.
4 days later.
I feel great. I ran 5K this morning.
Really?
No, I threw up in the shower.
Anyways,
where were you going with that?
So, and then I left for the mainland.
Yes.
So my older brother Nick was turning 40, turned 40 a few days ago, or yesterday, or today.
According to the family text thread, I think it was yesterday.
No, it's today, September 12th.
Is today the 12th?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And so I was going to go and surprise him at his 40th birthday party as long as I could get there flying standby on my mom's passes. My mom's a flight attendant. And so if I fly on her passes, it's super, super crazy cheap compared to what it normally is.
Right.
But you're flying space available. So
sometimes you don't
make it on an airplane. So my plan was to leave on Wednesday, get there Thursday, hang out with Brad from Ellis Custom Creations, then go to the party. The Wednesday flight filled up. So my mom texted me. She said, "You're not going to make it tonight. Go tomorrow." So I did. I left Thursday, got there Friday morning, slept in Brad Ellis from Ellis Custom Creations basement for a few hours, then hung out with Brad Ellis from Ellis Custom Creations
Oh my word.
all day long on Friday, birthday party on Saturday, then left on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw a wrench into the, hey, I'm going to post an Instagram reel every day. That's where I was getting with this.
Right.
But it was super, super fun to surprise my brother.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where if, we live so far away now that it's people's brains, our family's brains are because I've done it now a few times. I've surprised Kelsey and Taylor a few times.
Yeah.
And it's people's brains are used to seeing me around.
Right.
My brother's used to my face. It's not I haven't seen you in a decade.
Oh yeah.
But it's how
just
are
saw him
you
in April.
here?
Yeah. Right now.
It's just it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And then on the way home, I got to fly first class in a sleeper seat, which is,
Ew.
I get why
that
cost.
is the one itty bitty beauty of standby is that
if that's
the only seat left available, you might get upgraded to first class.
And I did. And so, Brooke and I don't fly first class when we fly. We're in the back in the slums. But
shut the curtain.
Yeah.
Snap it shut.
I don't want to see him in my peripheral. I will take what's Michael's line? I will take when he's ordering in first class, but they don't have food because it's too short of a flight. Nah, I can't remember the line. So here's what happened. So, and you have a pretty good idea, leaving from Maui. So I went Maui, Chicago, Kansas City.
Yeah.
So leaving from Maui to Chicago, I could tell by the seat map. I was I'm not getting first class.
Yeah.
So but the standby seats, there were a few aisle seats and a couple of middle seats.
Yeah.
And he put me in the middle seat. So I walked him. I was like, "Hey man, do you mind if maybe I could have one of those aisle seats?" And he changed me. And I was like,
"Oh,
hallelujah. God bless you." Gave him a little quick kiss. Said, "Okay, I love you. Bye." And then was on the plane. But it is so hard to sleep on the all-nighter in just a regular coach seat.
Yeah.
I just all night. I was just
I leave tomorrow and I'm not quite doing an all-nighter.
You kind of,
but I'm already
you are basically, you're doing the red eye.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I did the math where when I was talking to I was talking to someone about it, trying to book my flights before I talked to you about it. And I was like, okay, but like Maui body time, what time am I landing Maui body time?
That's the hard part.
And she's like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so if I'm just, in my mind, if I'm just staying up till 2 a.m. with a nap in there, maybe I could do that.
The hard part is when you're leaving, like my flight left at 5:30. Well, at 5:30 p.m., I am not tired.
Correct.
And so
mine leaves earlier than yours.
And so it's like,
I don't know.
So you're trying to sleep from like 5:30 till 1 a.m. Very hard to do. So you end up so usually I take melatonin, which is the key.
I do not plan to do that. It'll make me feel so weird for so long. I can't.
When you wake up on a plane after you've taken melatonin, you're just like, where am I?
No, when you wake up on a plane after you've taken melatonin, that's what happens.
What are we doing?
Be taking it.
And
I will wake up
anyways,
just fine.
So the flight
Totally
out was great.
The moment my eyes are awake.
The Kansas City airport is interesting. You like get off the plane and it's not totally a horseshoe, but it's like arced, the terminal.
Yeah.
And then it's like you get off the plane and you walk out and you're like, bam, outside. Like there's no like,
you're not like,
there's not like a big terminal to like walk
through
and like
get all the way out.
It's just like, so I called Brad. I'm like, I'm outside.
I'm here. My legs are on the ground and I'm outside.
So flight out was great. Flight coming back. I saw the seat map and I'm like 6th on the standby list because it goes. Right. So like when my mom flies, she's like at the top. She's got all the seniority. But as a when I'm on her passes, since I'm not like a
because
kid
she's
anymore,
not traveling with you and you do not live in her home.
Yeah. So like my dad gets the same seniority as my mom.
Right. So they're almost always first on the
when
list.
I was below 18 and lived at home and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm like not as high on seniority. So there's 6 people in front of me. Yeah. And I count 13 seats in first class. And so I'm just like, I think I'm going to get it. And I'm like, I'll walk up. I'm like, hey, you guys do any standby tickets yet? Okay, cool. I'll just back up. Yeah.
I'm just going to hang right here if you need me.
And one time.
I will literally be
right here if you need anything
at all.
One time when we were vacationing as a family, so because of my mom's job, we got to go to cool places on vacation because it was cheap to fly. Yeah. Which is usually half the battle. And so we came to Hawaii one time. And I remember we were on the plane to head back home, and the gate agent actually came on the airplane and was like, Macedas, party of 5, please come. And we got kicked off the airplane because the seats we were in were the people didn't show up, but then they showed up at the last minute. So I remember I think my sister was crying. I think I was crying.
Probably. You thought you were going to go home and then.
Probably. It's just like.
No, I meant more. Well,
yeah, you baby. You're just a crying little baby kid. You dumb baby kid.
Yep, with a giant head. Tears everywhere. Are your tears bigger because your head is so big?
Head's just flopping around trying to get off the airplane in a hurry. And so there's always, because of that.
You're walking between the 2 restrooms. Gotta go. Your head. Ricocheting off the sides. Sorry. That's not true.
Not totally. But because of that, I've always had this fear that someone's going to show up.
Get is really not. It's not going to be yours.
Yeah,
it's going to be taken away.
But even I'm 7 other people have to show up.
Right. For you not to get
So I get my seat, first class, sleeper seat, incredible. I'm just this is absolutely amazing. This is when standby is the best. It's a gift from God. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there.
Because what was your ticket like?
It's $90.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, you can't lay down your seat quite yet.
Right.
Into a bed.
Not yet.
Not yet. So I start falling asleep and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to, I'm kind of dozing in and out. And then we start taxiing away from the gate and I feel myself fall asleep. Mm-hmm. And then I wake up and we're not in the air.
We're back
at the gate. And I'm just like, it's I didn't have melatonin, thank goodness. But I was like,
what is happening?
I thought we left. And then I'm like, did I dream that we backed out? And then I saw my,
that's quite the dream.
There's a moment where I'm just like, where am I?
What time zone
I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, all these people look like the people that were sitting next to me. Did I get body snatched? Was I taken and put on another plane? And so we had some mechanical error. And so like from the time we started backing up and taxiing, I fell asleep and we came all the way back to the gate. And that's when I woke up and I saw like a notification on my phone that was like, don't hang in there. Your flight's going to. Yeah. But I just was like eternally grateful that again, this was the seat I had. Yeah. Seat. And then the flight home. I mean, it was quite, the difference it made was like, it was like,
kind of like a stupid differce.
Yeah, like I had not experienced it since I was like a teenager because of, occasionally I have gotten a first class standby seat since being an adult, but it's always been like Harrisburg to Chicago. So it's not like a sleeper seat. No. It's a very short flight or something like that.
It's just a little more room. Yeah.
Just a little more rooms. But this one I was just like, man. So I'm just so grateful for my mom and her job. And honestly, it just made it possible to do something that like normally, like there's just, as much as I would have wanted to go visit Nick, if I had to pay the full price for a ticket for that short of a trip, it would have been very unlikely of me to do that. And then it would have been like, okay, well, if I'm going to pay to go, maybe I should stay longer. And then I'm away from home for a longer period of time. All that to say, it was fun. It was great. And I got to hang out with Brad, got to see Jake from the Ghost Runners. And
Trey, though, he's the worst.
I didn't even text him.
I'm totally kidding.
Yeah.
I'm not actually throwing him under the bus.
But yeah, it was a good time. And, if you can surprise people, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth the effort.
Yeah. I heard recently someone was quoting his wife. And he was like, my wife always says, what do we lose when we celebrate? And I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to think about that for the rest of my life. Thanks. And so, and it's so true. Like, what do we lose if we celebrate a math test or somebody's birthday, or it could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I continue we Brooke and I went back and forth. Last Christmas we went home. We went back to Pennsylvania for Christmas, and it was one of the worst trips we've ever had. Mm-hmm. Everyone got sick. Yeah. It was just like, and so a couple of people asked me, it was like, so you're not going back this year? And I was like, well, no, we are. And they're like, oh man, I'm so surprised. And the reason, and this is sort of the reason I went on the trip. Obviously the reason I went on this trip is because I love my brother. Mm-hmm. But I also want, again, if our children are becoming who we are, I want my children to see that family is worth traveling for, that it's worth the time at the airport, going through security, the packing, the franticness at times, the uncertainty of flights and delays and cancellations. Yeah. I want them to know their whole life that family is worth traveling for. Part of that is selfishly. Part of that is when I am a grandpa and they are.
You hope that they travel to see us.
I hope that say, hey, my dad did this his whole life. He traveled to and from to see his family.
Yeah.
And they're becoming who we are. And so that's kind of just like the more emotional side of it, of just like, that's what I want.
And I think that can hold true even if you're not traveling. I hope that we show our kids that we celebrate this, or we insert anything that I just hope that we're, as always, being a good example of what a full intentional.
Yeah. Like when June turns 40, which will happen, which is
that
is wild.
I can't quite comprehend that.
Sonny's probably a little bit young to remember this trip, but hopefully Sonny will go visit her wherever they live.
Yeah. That's nuts.
It does feel nuts to have a brother that's 40. My sister already turned 40, but my older sister was old enough that she just felt a lot older.
Do you never overlapped in high school?
No, she was already gone. And I think for some years, and my brother and I were in the same. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and we wrestled on the same team. Right, and so
you felt a little bit closer
to him, but yeah, it's just crazy. He's 40. He doesn't look 40. He looks great.
He does not look 40.
No, country miles.
No city miles.
No city miles on that one. Yeah. So yeah.
That's kind of all we've done.
That's kind of all we've done because
since the last episode.
We're recording at weird times right now because Brooke's leaving tomorrow to go to. Why don't you tell them where? Tell them where you're going, son.
Tell them what you want, son. I'm going to Austin, Texas.
Wait, are you going?
Are you saying see the world or Sea World?
I'm saying it's raining outside again.
It's been raining.
It's been raining almost 4 or 5 days in a row, and it's very weird. It's great. Everything's really green, but I'm literally not accustomed to it anymore.
What's
and
crazy
in
is when
Pennsylvania, I used to be like, oh, it's
raining.
outside.
Great.
It's just normal.
Cool. There's pollen covering everything. Cool.
Pollen. No, I'm going to Austin, Texas for a beauty counter conference. I guess is what you'd call
it.
it.
A conference.
Like it's put on by corporate.
Yep.
And so they'll reveal like the holiday stuff and there's trainings and
Are
like,
you allowed to take stories while you're there? Like
I'm allowed to take, I believe I'm allowed to take stories. I'm not allowed to show the holiday sets. I think that's the one thing I'm not allowed to show yet.
But
Because did I accidentally do it 3 years ago? And they messaged me, please take those stories down. I was like, I genuinely had no idea then. I was so new. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Delete.
You're on their list,
Secretly
babe.
saved to my phone and text to my friends. But
Oh, you've got a text group.
I do have a text group. I am not allowed to share any information publicly about holiday sets.
Jerry's going to eat you up.
But a text group is not public because
Right.
you have opted
So
in.
we'll put that number in
Which
the
is
show
interesting.
notes.
Yeah.
Just in case you wanted to join.
But yeah, I'm excited. And I can't remember if I said this last week. My friend Amber is coming with me, who I've known since 5th grade.
Because you've had some nostalgia feels lately.
I always feel this way in the fall. Like,
John
like
Mayer
all
starts
the time.
playing and Brooks.
And it's funny because it's not even getting cool here.
Right.
Like I'm not feeling a temperature change, which often is what would kind of like kickstart it in previous years living somewhere else.
Although people are going to despise me for saying this. I rode my bike to the gym today.
Yeah.
In a tank top and shorts. And I thought, oh, it's not quite as hot.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Although with the rain, it's been so cloudy the last few days.
Yeah.
It actually is not quite as hot. But yeah, I always feel this way. And it's funny. I listen to the same artists and I've talked about this before on the
we
podcast.
have talked about this and I think it's true.
Just that like there is something about, for so many years of your life, you have this back to school feeling, this like, it's sort of like a New Year feeling, but a little different. And you feel like you're starting something fresh and you just came off summer. And I've actually really been processing this a lot sort of internally, like how much I felt like as a kid, and I say kid, meaning even through high school, like in all the school years, I definitely feel like I figured out who I was or found myself, if you will, more so during the summer. And then it was like, I'd go to school and like, school was never bad, but it was just like, I don't know. I never had any like when I think back on all my school years, other than a few select memories of something funny happening in school or like an achievement, all of my like, I feel emotional about childhood, melancholy, but also awesome moments, like none of them happened at school. They all happened like in the summer months and in the warm weather or at the beach or something like that. And so anyway, I always feel this way this time of year. I start listening to John Mayer and Joshua Radin and like all the people I used to listen to back then.
Start sending me long text messages.
Well, you weren't here. Ugh. Stop it.
Golly.
Well, I was catching you up.
Hold on.
Whoa.
There we go.
But anyway, I was connecting that to Amber.
Yeah.
That I am excited to see
Yeah.
somebody who I've known.
You went up country. It was a little cooler and you were like, man.
I did. And I had this like brief moment of like, oh, I kind of miss the cooler weather. And then I was like, wait, mainland cooler weather comes with the trees I'm allergic to.
Yep.
Nope, don't miss it. Never
and
mind.
then it gets down to 14 and you're pumping gas and you hate everything.
That's true. But for me, it's really an allergy thing.
Yeah.
Like so much.
Yeah. I also feel like we're currently in a basically September feels like a wash to us. Not really. Like we're still getting,
but I was literally, what did I do? Oh, September? Whoosh. And I just like threw it over my shoulder. Like it doesn't even count. I mean, it counts, but
we had we don't travel a ton. And so like,
we really don't.
In September, we had quite a few, like at the end of August with Integrated and then September.
We're in September right now.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like,
yes,
it wasn't all in September, but
got it.
It was like, and then we had the collection and we're a few weeks away from having our babysitter back on island, and she's going to work for us in a more robust capacity.
Yeah.
And this is something that we've never had. And so it's like, and this is where like, you know, I was talking to my parents about this. I was like, we could have full-time childcare if we sent our kids to public school. Like they would be gone all day and we could work and do on things, but like, that's not how we want to do family and do life. And so there's like this like kind of, you know, ebb and flow balance that we need to find. And so one of the ways we're going to try to like be able to pull in some more work time and productive time outside of, teaching our kids is to have help in the house.
Yeah.
And we're like, it's kind of like senioritis. We're just like feeling
that's what
like,
I said in my long emotional text message to you.
It's like,
I
Abby,
recognize that what I'm feeling is partially the time of year
and it's
coupled with senioritis for having like actual help.
Yeah.
It's so close.
Yeah.
And yet it has felt so far for so long.
Mm-hmm. Because we talked to Abby about this since she started her internship over a year ago.
Yeah.
And it was like, I realize now looking back that we probably should have found someone
for the in-between.
But we were just like, nah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And
there's fire around us.
And so it's like, and I was talking about this with Brad. It's like, I feel like we've been operating from a business perspective at the bare minimum. And so it's
we've said that on here before.
And I just like, I'm so ready for that season to end.
Yes.
That it's like,
I don't desire to be in that
season. Again, seasons have an end. And so like looking back,
and they have a purpose. Like
I don't regret it.
Exactly.
I'm very thankful that we were aware enough to have that as be like, it really got helpful when we finally named it. But I'm just like super thankful that like we had a year where, while we might not have flourished at business, we really came together as a family and we got to see our kids come alive in ways that we hadn't before. And like, there were just like, and obviously we brought a kid into the world and like, there were just like really cool elements of this past year.
Yeah.
But it's like now, and it's like, we're not going to switch it into like, we're going to work 80 hours a week, full-time hustle mode or anything like that. But it's like, we're definitely, it sounds horrible.
So terrible.
Yeah. We're just ready to like, turn it up a notch and like really kind of start dreaming again about where we want to see our businesses go and flourish and all that kind of stuff, and start offering some new stuff that we've been thinking about for a lot of years. We got Tiny Rhythms coming out, which like we've been talking about for over a year.
Yeah.
Apparently the cost of magnets has gone up. So that's just like, one of those things where you're like, oh, fun. Cool. Yeah. I was just thinking about magnets the other day and I was like, I wonder what their costs are. No, now I am. But yeah, I'm just like, I definitely feel all those things. Yeah. And it was just like, even now, like we are recording on a Tuesday, kids are watching a movie, Daisy's hopefully napping this whole time. It's like this.
It's just not ideal.
It's not ideal. But
I don't think you say any of this to be like, oh, look at us.
No.
We're trying to figure it out. Cause like, I hope when we share stuff like this, that it's relatable and just like, we're still getting done what we need to get done, which was record the podcast.
Yep.
Like that was all that had to happen today.
Yep.
But like, it's not an ideal scenario as far as all
and the
of
reason
it.
I say that is like, if you find yourself in a season where it's just like, man, we have been just doing the bare minimum and that season doesn't have an end, I think there are conversations that need to happen. And so like, like, because seasons do need to come to an end. And so like we had that.
What would that end look like?
Yeah. How can we
what do we think is there something that needs to take place first to kind of start? What's the beginning of the end?
And so when we started talking once we named it the bare minimum season that we were in, I was like, is there a way to end it before, Abby? Like, or are we putting all our eggs in this one basket? And so we talked that through and we really didn't find like an easy solution. And so it was just like, no. And then we kind of realized, no, that's it. And like, we'll just work hard to be set up well for when she comes and make the most of it for however long she's with us and let that be that. So anyways, that's just like all that's kind of been going on. That's the how was your week, essentially, because it's only Tuesday.
Yeah.
So before Daisy wakes up, I'm going to get through the last session of Integrated. And now this feels like it's over a month old. Not quite. Maybe 2.5 weeks since I was there. So I might be refreshing myself as I read these notes.
Yeah. Okay.
So Dr. Josh Straub, who's...
Do you actually call him Dr. Josh to his face?
Sometimes I do. And he's like, stop. All right, Dr. Josh, whatever you say. Who is one of my favorite humans. I feel like he, with 2 little pieces of language, has helped our marriage more than anyone.
Yeah.
So much so that we're actually going to team up with him on one of these projects that we're looking forward to launching soon. And
those 2 pieces of language would be the emotional check-in.
The emotional check-in at the end of the day. Highest, most positive emotion, most negative emotion, which then just like leads into richer, deeper conversation.
It's just a prompt
all the time. And like sometimes you don't even need to do it that way. And then the other one is what's in the chair behind. What's in the chair behind the emotions that you have right now.
Yeah.
And those two just have been, and we've talked about those extensively on the podcast, have been super, super helpful. So he gave a talk called Shalom in the Home. And I'm just going to kind of read my notes because they're kind of just like written as one-liners.
Okay.
And we'll talk about them. And so
Shalom means
peace,
harmony.
like,
Does shalom mean peace be with you?
yeah.
Okay. Like the whole phrase?
I'm not sure about that.
Probably shouldn't ask these things live on a podcast.
No, it's great. That's what people are here for.
It's fine.
And so the first thing that he starts off by saying, which I just like, and he's a family counselor, therapist. I don't know if he's a therapist. I don't know the difference.
He's something though. Like he's legit.
He's a therapist. I don't know if he's a psychiatrist.
No, he's not.
He's a therapist.
A psychiatrist can prescribe medicine.
Right.
A psychologist is just going to meet with like.
What about therapists?
A therapist is somebody
I want to make an
talk
Arrested
to.
Development joke so bad, but it's inappropriate. And if you're familiar with Arrested Development,
just know the joke is being made.
Joke is being made in my head. This is the first thing that he talks about.
Okay.
A lot of therapy today leads us to a place of self-love or victim mentality. And everyone was just like, woof.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's true. Like, we have more people in therapy than ever before. And society feels like it's degenerating faster than ever before.
Right.
Like,
I don't think that's solely because people are in therapy.
No, but it's like,
but I think that's
but if people were actually in therapy that was actually helping.
That's what I was going to say. You need to make sure you have the right person.
Yeah. And so like, I was just like, man, that's just such a power, place of self-love or victim mentality.
Mm-hmm.
He said, where do you step out of your healing into a place of loving each other, which is what the gospel is all about. He's talking about specifically about marriage and just like that idea of like, you can stay in that sort of self-love therapy, like, kind of toxic therapy mindset. And it's like, eventually you need to step out of the healing process. It can still be ongoing, but that healing needs to take root in reality of what's around you. Like if Brooke's in therapy all the time and she's still terrible and nasty to me, then is that therapy really working? Like, And And so he was just like encouraging like people that like, and he's like, I'm in therapy, my wife's in therapy, like,
that's what they do. He's clearly not anti-therapy.
No, not at all. And he's like, but we can't just stay in that, like, oh, I'm still recovering from my trauma or my triggerness or whatever. Like,
yes.
And like, eventually we need to.
Well, eventually you would hope that if you really are truly healing, which can take a butt ton of time, I'll say that.
Butt ton?
Butt ton. It's like a really specific scientific quantification. It's like, what was I saying? I was distracted by your butt ton movement.
Therapy can take a ton of time.
A butt ton of time. Oh yeah, that you
I think if I was listening on the podcast right now, I would say, "What is TJ's butt ton movement?"
No, your hands like jiggling back and forth.
I mean, now you gave it away.
Yeah.
Trying to get those YouTube views, babe.
Oh, sorry. Go watch the video and find out for yourself. A minute 28 and 0 seconds.
DJ does the butt ton dance on the podcast.
No, but I would hope that I think what you're saying is eventually you should start to see fruit of it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like even if you're still working on said thing for maybe all of time, there should also be fruit coming alongside of what you're working on.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, so here are just some things that I wrote down. So he was talking about, the whole idea was like, I'm going to teach you how to get shalom in the home, but first I'm going to start off by just talking. That's kind of what he said. You can sum up all parenting research into one primary conclusion. Our kids become who we are. Our kids' emotional floor is our emotional ceiling. And we've talked about this before. We actually talked with Josh on the podcast about this.
Right.
We all need healing, but we also need the healing to meet the gospel. And it was just like, that's so well said that it's like, I think a lot of times, and I would say that I'm guilty of this, is like, I talk about like my kids being emotionally healthy. I talk about us being emotionally healthy and having good communication. But it's like, if that doesn't go to the next level of meeting the gospel, then, what's it all worth? You know what I mean? And that was like, we really talked about that a lot in the group that whole weekend that I wasn't, sick in my bedroom. And it's just like, building great family teams and multi-generational wealth and all that kind of stuff is super important. but it is not as important as the gospel. And it's like, I think a lot of times we can get distracted by like Sabbath is super important. Take Sabbath, do Sabbath, whatever. But Sabbath is not important as the gospel.
Right.
And so like Josh was like kind of bringing that all home, that like we can do all these things, but all these things need to coalesce and come to the conclusion of the gospel of Jesus. And I was just like, whew, okay. And so,
I hear you, Dr. Josh. I hear you.
Yeah, cool. I am healing, but in my healing, I'm also carrying out the gospel. That's what he said. And then he talked about shalom. Shalom is completeness. At the foundation, it means reconciliation with God. God presence dwells in a pure and loving home. And so he really was like talking about literally, and we talked about this during Integrated, is like your home. And I think I mentioned this earlier in the talks, like, what are the square inches of your house for?
Yes. You mean your physical home
and just
property.
Like, are you like, is that a reflection of shalom? Like, are you allowing God to dwell in your house? God is blessing Aaron with peace as he is getting ready to conquer the promised land. Peace means an inner fullness, which will lead to shalom in the home. The cost of peace in our lives is to die to ourselves. We find inner peace in our reconciliation with God. Again, I was just like, he's talking and I'm just typing on my iPad, you know, like
it's the cat.
Yeah.
The cat gif.
You know. And then he gave us like more of like practical ways, like there's lists here. So the list that he shared were 2 paths that lead to a lack of peace, 4 ways to find peace, 4 practical ways to experience shalom, and that's it. And then I have those are notes from something else.
Once upon a time.
Yeah,
you've started a sci-fi
typing my
novel at the bottom.
Well, I did take
Quirky
a lot of
10th grader.
I did take a lot of Tylenol PM. So 2 paths that lead
This
to
is your melatonin novel.
Yeah. Like, weird.
Suddenly I found myself awake.
Wow, that was great. So we polled the audience on the Walk in Love podcast Instagram on like their favorite deep cut of the
what's your favorite inside joke?
And I'm going to do it again on Monday. Again, I'm just going to just keep asking every Monday.
Yeah.
And suddenly I found myself awake was quite a few. The number one that I was like most shocked about, and maybe people knew that I was like, I don't know. I guess not.
No,
I
didn't
didn't have any preface of like, don't say this one because I know this is one.
Yeah. No, you didn't say anything.
The number one that I was actually shocked by was Googling bridges. So
yeah. I wasn't surprised by that because I've seen the comments.
I was just kind of shocked that
and
was
it's like a phrase of like, oh, it's the language for I'm spiraling.
Yeah.
We're going down and I'm taking you all with me. I'm Googling bridges to live under.
Anyways, I was just surprised by that. 2 paths that lead to a lack of peace, selfish ambition, and trying to balance everything.
2 paths that lead to a lack of peace.
Selfish ambition, which is, that is obvious. Like
Familiar. Mm-hmm.
We've all been there. We are all guilty of that. And 2, trying to balance everything. And
that's interesting because that's something everybody wants and really desires. And it's not necessarily something that's super frowned upon.
Oh, no. Like that's,
okay, you're trying to balance everything. That's good. Balance is good.
Yeah. I think balance is a lie.
100%.
And I think that balance is the lie that leads us out of Sabbath
and just more rhythmic living and like bigger picture. And there's so many things. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I think like, and this used to be the number one question that we would get is like, how do you balance everything? And we used to come up with all sorts of answers. And it wasn't until we started practicing Sabbath that I was like, all those answers were wrong because that's the wrong question to ask because that's not even the goal. The goal isn't, I need to balance my work with my relaxation or my time with my kids, with my time at work. Like God gave us a blueprint on how to live a quote unquote balanced life. And it's not to live a balanced life. It's to live a rhythmic life. He gave us a 7-day strategy to live a rhythmic life that will then give us balance to our soul.
Yes.
And it's like,
well, because what does that say? To read the top of that sentence.
2 paths that lead to a lack of peace, trying to balance everything.
Right. Yeah.
And that's so true. Like if you're like, okay, I'm going to balance my work with my time with my kids. Well, What
Okay, so
is that an hour in the day? Is that
so they're of equal priority?
yeah.
If you're trying to equal them out, like
and it's like like your kids need to eat. So what happens when money's tight or you don't have a job? Like there's just so many things that can cause imbalance there that it's like. But
I think that's 100%. I think that's seeking the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so then it puts forth this inaccurate image of what you're trying to do. And absolutely that'll suck all your peace away.
It's like we've kind of bought in, culturally, we've bought into the lie of balancing our schedule instead of balancing our soul. And what Sabbath does is it brings balance back to your soul.
It's a recalibration. Yeah.
And then that allows you that no matter how crazy your schedule may get at times, you still know that there's this anchor for your soul every week that just kind of, gets your equilibrium back. Anyways, so 4 ways to find peace. These are all pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And it was just like, again, as Christians, I feel like we hear the same things over and over again, but it's like they're always like refreshing.
It's the truth.
Yeah. And so it's just like, so 4 ways to find peace. Shalom is found with God. And so like, this is one area that I've always struggled with. I've talked about it here is like, I do not do well with quiet time. I've tried all the different, not all the different things, but I've tried a lot of different strategies, and I constantly need to be reminded and pushed to like, that time is valuable and it's super important. And however I can eke it out, I need to. And there will be seasons where I'm eking it out. And then hopefully there will be robust seasons where, I have more, rhythm to make it happen. Shalom is found with self, inner peace, and these are in order. So like, shalom with God, first thing, then shalom with yourself, inner peace, understanding who you are, being able to like, literal have emotional equilibrium.
Yeah.
Shalom in your marriage, because it's going to be hard to have shalom in your marriage if you don't have shalom with yourself.
Yes.
It's going to be hard to have shalom with yourself if you don't have shalom with God. This is like a shalom matryoshka doll.
Okay. Oh, I'm into that.
Yeah. And then shalom with your kids. Those 4 things will lead to shalom in the home.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you go after those 4 things? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I know. I'm actually not paralyzed that you're putting me on the spot. It's more that's just that question is.
And that's a good question to just think about.
No, like none of those things make me feel like, geez, I'm terrible at that.
Okay.
But none of those things make me feel like, yep,
got it.
As always, I feel like somewhere in the middle of like, okay, let me think about that.
If it was like, 1 to 5, rate your
it
shalom
never
with
fails.
God.
We'll take the same, I don't know, it doesn't matter what it is, internet test, anything. Rate on a scale of 1 to 10. Rate something.
Shalom with God, 1 to 10. What would you say?
Oh, on myself.
On your scale,
I'm rating
your own
myself.
scale. Yep.
You're gonna laugh.
Go ahead.
6.
Okay, I'd say like a
7, maybe 7.
I'd say like, I don't know. See, now that I've kind of said they're a matryoshka doll, I would rate myself higher.
Yes.
There would have
you
been
are very hard on yourself.
100%
on the uber specificness of a quote unquote quiet time.
Yes.
And it being like this time, and it's called this thing, and it's uninterrupted, and it's this
100%.
like magical unicorn. And sometimes I wonder if you're chasing the wrong unicorn. I'm not saying don't pursue a quiet time.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that to anybody listening, but.
And I've given myself a lot of grace in that area over the last 5 years. There would have been a time though, where I would have been like, shalom with God, 1, shalom with myself, 10, shalom with my marriage, 10, shalom with my kids, 1.
Yep.
And Brooke would have been like, 5, 6,
7,
7,
4.
I'm going to scratch off that 7, put it back to 6.
Maybe somewhere in the middle. I'm the median average.
But what's crazy is like, just like balance is kind of this like farce that we all try to figure out. I'm not saying balance isn't important. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go there. It's like this idea, like they're all interconnected. It's not like I can just score on one.
Correct.
Like I can't just have a 10 in my marriage and the rest will be fine. Like they're all connected. Yeah. And when I find myself struggling in one area, I'm usually struggling in all the areas because shalom,
they're all connected.
Because the idea that like that if shalom is completeness, well, I don't have completeness. And so I'm just struggling And there are definitely seasons where like that is super hard, where you're just like in a rut, or you're just frustrated, or your fuse is extra short. And like your fuse is short because your kids might be annoying you. And then it's like that fuse doesn't all of a sudden become longer when your wife annoys you, you know?
Me? No.
And so it's
Never.
like they are all connected. And that's why it's like they work as sort of like, you know, a foundation. And so like we have to start with having shalom with God, to have shalom with ourselves, to have shalom with our spouses, to have shalom with our kids. And it's just like that imagery of like either a Matryoshka doll or like literally the foundation of a home.
A Matryoshka doll is like a Russian nesting doll. If you don't know what it is, the dolls that stack in on each other and they get tinier and tinier as you open up.
Do people not know what a Matryoshka doll is?
I had never heard the name Matryoshka until I met you.
Oh, well, you were homeschooled, so.
No,
our kids are homeschooled.
It's because you guys use Russian words in your typical conversation. And I'm like,
here's something. Here's a strong feeling I have.
Okay.
There's a couple of Russians that come to the gym Maui where I work out.
Okay. Wow.
I've used quite a few Russian words, and my expectations are sky high when I use them, thinking they're going to love this.
Yeah.
It's a 10 out of 10 joke with a Russian word. I don't know many, but I know some. Maybe
like they haven't even acknowledged it.
That's sort of how it feels.
Maybe they don't hear you.
No,
maybe they don't like you. Hopefully it's not that.
This is a Matryoshka doll.
Who is this weirdo yelling the word mosquito every time we work out?
Come on off. Give me the Matryoshka dolls of why isn't it received at a 10 out of 10? They don't like you.
They don't like you.
The
music is too loud. They can't hear you.
Music is too loud. They can't hear you.
They're not actually sure. They heard you, but they're uncertain and they don't want to turn around and be like, Kamarov. And so they're like, and then you'd be like, I'm sorry, what? Are you talking to me? They don't want to feel dumb.
Okay.
Or they don't want people to know they're Russian, because that's not a great thing sometimes. Even though they're wonderful people.
So, yeah.
I don't know. But it's
they
a good thing your expectations are sky high.
They're sky high.
What did I say the other day?
It's like I'm going into an open mic and I'm like, I've got solid gold here.
Yeah. 8 minutes of solid gold. Sit down, people. Hold on to your butts. Okay, so June. What did she do? Oh, she was climbing that tree at Costco, or outside Costco in the parking lot.
Yeah.
She was so proud of herself because she's a little scared of heights. And she's not always the like bravest like that physically. Like she won't jump, or she just, that stuff.
It's gotten better since we moved to Hawaii.
It's 100% gotten better. Yeah. But anyway, she was very proud of herself for kind of climbing up inside this tree. And so I was relaying the story to you, TJ. And I said, she was like disproportionately proud. To which you said, I'm very familiar with that emotion.
That's my sweet spot.
And I was like,
bro, come look at this. Come look at this. This is the best thing I've ever done. What am I looking at here? What is this? Did you see?
I don't want to ask more questions because I know that'll only make it worse. But it looks the same.
I love it.
It looks great. Show me exactly what it is that looks great about this.
Point to your face. Use this laser pointer that I have in my pocket and laser point to your favorite part about it.
That's so proud. Anyway, yes.
So
I was clarifying what a Matryoshka doll is.
Yes. Okay, so then Josh went on to give us 4 practical ways to experience shalom. So, like, what does it look like? That's always the question. Well, first he asked a question. Where is the one place right now where my biggest barrier lies to having shalom in the home? And I think that's a really good question to answer. It's like, what, it could be a job. It could be like lack of rhythm. It could be a variety of things. It could be one specific kid kind of being disobedient. It could be lack of communication. Like there could be just a lot of different, and so like, it could be a lack of like actual personal alone time with the Lord. Like there could be a lot of reasons. And so
we're not just picking something off that list of 4 you just read. Like,
no,
like
just
it's like a specific scenario.
Yeah,
is there something?
Yeah. If you have shalom in your home, amazing. That's wonderful. Keep fighting for it. Keep going for it. If you feel like it's missing.
Yeah.
And I think as parents, as adults, we can like, we know that.
We feel it.
We feel that to be true.
We don't always want to admit it,
right,
I think, because it's like, oh, if you admit it, then you're like, oh, that's where we are.
We might, cover it, stuff it,
shove it so far down.
But, when we're alone and it's quiet and we have felt it for a while. Like that's how I was feeling earlier this year. And I was like, I put language to it. I said, Brooke, this felt like a year we were going to take some ground with our business, and we're not even holding ground. We're losing ground.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, that is where, like, even just giving it that language, it was like, okay, that's why I don't have shalom, because I've been kind of holding that anxiety about this unreal expectation,
this unnamed anxiety.
And so it was like, that was super helpful. And that, I feel like that was kind of the shift in our year of like,
that
okay,
was a
yeah,
really helpful shift.
you know, like it just, I felt like it just smoothed things out in my brain to be like, okay, and that's okay. Like, it's not as expected. That's fine. So what does it look like now? And we were able to like recapture the shalom in our home because we named it and had language for it. Anyways, so I think it's just such a good question to ask.
Ask it one more time.
What is the one place right now where my biggest barrier lies to having shalom in the home?
Okay.
You know, where's the bottleneck to shalom?
Mm-hmm.
Where's it all getting jammed up?
Yeah.
And for us, like there have been seasons, like honestly, you know, Sonny, if you listen to this when you're older, like we love you so much, but like when you were a baby, you were the place, you were the barrier. Like you were a hard baby, little baby.
Yes.
Like, and that was just like,
it was
hard. Like that just prevented us from having shalom in our home because we were just, there were a lot of other things. Like I was working too much. We were stretched pretty thin. There were just a lot going on, but like, that was just like, that was one of the reasons. And so like, I think naming it is just super helpful. And so like,
well, yeah, because then it's like, you know, let's use that example. Then I'm also able to have a little perspective once we've named it to be like, okay, but that shouldn't, as hard as that was, that season with her being so little and so sad all the time and ragey. Like,
which we now realize she was just hungry.
She might have just been hungry. I feel real bad about that. I mean, she's a passionate kid.
Yeah, she's athletic.
Yes,
in the best way
but like,
possible.
We're talking about a bait, like under one, like 1 and under.
Yeah,
15 months and under. Like anyway,
6 years and under.
No, she's only 4. You're just putting time forward. We're just gonna go ahead and lump
21 and under. Yeah. After that.
But again, I feel like, and I don't know, maybe this doesn't line up exactly with what you're saying, but like when we name it like that, I am able to step back and be like, okay, but I do not want that bottleneck of a situation to dominate our whole lives and our emotions
100%.
And the way I treat everybody else and the way I treat myself and my inner dialogue and blah, 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 blah. Like it's a little easier to be a little softer with it.
Yeah.
And hold it a little less tightly. Yeah.
And we played that clip one time of Jordan Peterson where he's like, one of the best ways to solve problems or is to name them. Like once you name it, you've already taken the first step into solving it. And it's when we don't name it, when we don't say, hey, this is the biggest barrier to shalom in our home. When we don't say that, we're not taking step one. And so again, and the barrier will change as seasons go and end and start and like all that kind of stuff. So anyways, here's 4 practical ways to experience shalom. Is Daisy awake?
No.
Okay.
Surprisingly. She rolled around a lot, but
Amazing.
She's asleep again.
With God, identify your chase, setting a rule of life with a prayer of examine. We need to identify what we feel as men. We try to keep peace when God is the only one who brings peace. Specifically asking the Lord, what am I chasing? And this is, again, I think this is, I don't know, you can speak to women on this.
Okay.
We try to keep peace when God is the only one who brings peace. Like as a man, I am trying to like
keep the peace. That what you like?
I am responsible for the peace in my life. Like fully on me. It's on my shoulders.
Yeah.
If we're having friction in the house or with the kids, it is on me to solve it. And that is just not true. God is the bringer of peace.
Right.
And so like for us, it's just like we need to lay our burdens at his feet. That is like, so what am I chasing? Am I chasing success? Am I chasing money? Am I chasing, fame or whatever? Like I need to know like what? Go ahead.
You said, what am I chasing? I just picture your Matryoshka dolls rolling down the street.
Am I chasing my Matryoshka dolls?
Am I chasing my nesting doll collection down the road? I don't know.
It's real windy on Maui. Maybe someday.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so like, that's just like, I think that question is super valuable. What am I chasing? And
because it acknowledges that we're all chasing something. Yeah. Because we are.
And I think it allows us to be like, okay, well, I don't want to chase that. Like,
yes,
I want to the answer to that. I want that. Yeah. The answer I want that to that question is Jesus.
Yeah.
And if it's not Jesus, then it allows me to kind of reshift, recalibrate.
Yes.
And then, I'm sure as time goes on, I'll get off track again. And then I get to recalibrate again if I keep asking myself that question. So I thought that was really good. Number 2, inner peace. This is how to experience shalom within yourself. Showing up as the best version of yourself. Out of my peace and reconciliation with you, how can I better show up in our home? And so like the example Josh used for this one is like, I know that I am a better dad and a better husband if I wake up before my kids. Like,
yes,
hands down, I know that like if there's a barrier to shalom in our home, it's because I'm going a few days of waking up after my children wake up.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah.
But it's not simple because my kids wake up early.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but it takes, a little bit of foresight, a little bit of planning, a little bit of like self-discipline, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, but it's like a switch flips.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I feel that as well.
I used to, I don't feel that 100% in my season right now, but we felt that before.
Yeah.
There was a long season where I purposely got up before.
Yeah.
Because it is what made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And so like, I think the question, how can I show up, the question with shalom with God is like, Lord, what am I chasing? With yourself is like, how can I show up better? And so like, I think that sometimes that can be like, for me this year, it was like, I can show up better. I really felt like, man, I'm getting a little lethargic. And so like, I was like, I need to get in better shape. I need to show, like, I literally just physically will show up better.
Yes.
If I have more energy, I feel stronger, like I can play harder, like all that kind of stuff.
But you also, I think when you physically burn the energy, and like everybody's like this, but I do think that some people and personalities need it more.
100%.
Like it's not that you need to like burn off excess energy, because it's not like you're like bouncing off the walls and like caffeine, blah, like not that kind of vibe, but it centers you, it regrounds you to being like, I don't know, it brings you back to something when you do it.
Days I work out, I'm a better husband. I'm a better dad. It's like maybe not specifically day in and day out, but like if I go 2 weeks without working out,
it's compounding either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 3 was name your opponent in your marriage. So to find shalom in your marriage, practical way. We have to call it out into the light. Until we identify the opponent, we will make our spouse the opponent.
Opponent, sort of like the elephant?
Yeah, I think
kind of.
Yeah, like like if finances. Like if like we don't talk about finances because if we do, we're gonna get in a fight.
Crazy eyes towards each other. We don't talk about it.
We don't talk about finances.
We don't talk about Pluto.
Nice.
It's a great little YouTube.
But naming the opponent in your marriage, and I just love that, because if we don't name it, you become the opponent. Yeah. Finances are now
you're doing this and you're spending that and you're the reason why, and
and it could be anything. Like, Josh was like, it could be sex. You know, like that could be the opponent. Like you guys might have different, I don't know, thoughts, ideas, all that kind of stuff. It could be money. It could be, whether parenting style, whether you have help or you don't have help, what kind of
business.
There just could be a million things. And until you name it, it's going to fester. And that's why I think the emotional check-in is super helpful, because like, if you have a negative emotion about something specific a couple of days in a row, that feels like something that we need to really address. Yeah. And so, but I just like that idea that like, and I'm super guilty of this. If we don't name the opponent, I feel like you're the opponent. And now I start like kind of snapping at you when it's probably has nothing to do with you. And then number 4, practical way to experience shalom with your kids is setting the atmosphere with your kids. And I feel like you can speak to this, especially in the last like 2 weeks, as you've read that Wild and Free book, as you've kind of prepped your heart and your body and your mind for homeschooling
this year.
I just feel like there's been just like this shift in your, I don't know, I don't want to say like personality, but like, I feel like you've had this just like, not 180, because it wasn't that drastic, but I feel like there is, you have come into this school year feeling much lighter and feeling much like less like
a little less like I need Yulia every day.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. I feel like you're not bracing for impact. And that is how I feel like you've described things in the past before.
Here it comes.
Like, how many coins am I going to have to spend? Like, let me hold on to them. Like, you don't want, like, and I just feel like you've set an atmosphere this year that we're 4 days in.
We're incredible. We're going to post a reel every day.
I think I got to 6 maybe. I don't know. I think I posted 2 one day. So
I know.
doubled up bonus points. I don't know, what's kind of been your mindset of that? Like, I'm setting the atmosphere in our home.
Right. I mean, I do think I want to do a whole separate episode on it, but what was the question again?
The
Or the
practical
prompt
way
or whatever?
to experience shalom with your kids is setting the atmosphere with your kids. Like,
Right.
that's the practical way.
And so
What
I
atmosphere
think,
are you setting?
Off the top of my head, I think that there's like 2 kinds of atmospheres. There's like the physical one, so like your literal home,
Yep.
your stuff, the rooms, the organization or lack thereof of it. Why do we
Yep.
have this in our house? What does it do for us? And how does it serve our family?
Yep.
And
What are the square inches for?
yes,
type of
there's
vibe.
like that side. And then there's there's like the emotional atmosphere, the like tension, the spiritual atmosphere of just like, I mean, you can feel it sometimes when you walk into somebody's house and there's this atmosphere of like joy and fun and just like, I don't know, like I would think about that when I would like go to the Zemer's house.
Yeah.
Like I would walk in and you just feel it.
Yep.
Like, and I'm talking about the atmosphere, not so much although their house is very nice and I like all their furniture too. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the emotional, spiritual atmosphere is awesome. And then you walk into some people's homes and you're just like, you feel it the second you walk through the door. Like,
Yeah. There's tension here.
there's tension here. There's not a lot of openness. There's definitely some things that are off topic. Like,
Yeah.
I'm, a little nervous.
You're bracing for impact.
Yeah, you brace for impact. And I got that phrase from Bianca,
Yeah.
whose actual massage therapist said, Bianca, it kind of feels like you're bracing for impact in your
Yeah.
shoulders all the time. She was like, yeah, it's because I am. And I was like, this is why Bianca and I are the same person.
Yeah.
Basically, because yes. So I've tried really hard to think about both. And I recognize, like, I'm able to recognize more and more how much of an impact you, TJ, have on my atmosphere over here. And if you're watching the video on this hand, my emotional and spiritual. Like if you're having a bad day, I try not to spiral into having a bad day. I try to let you have your bad day because that's okay. But like it affects me. And I'm like, well, I'm doing the same thing with my kids. Like 100%. And especially when I'm the one mostly homeschooling,
Yeah.
like not exclusively, but
Yeah.
like I do spend more time doing that. Like I'm setting the tone for that atmosphere big time.
Right.
And so I need to be in a place where I can do that day in and day out. And so that probably takes me all the way back up to like shalom with God, shalom with self. Like
Yeah.
I need to be doing all those things so that it does trickle all the way down to with my kids and I can be there. But then, and this is this is the side I could talk about all day long, is like your physical home.
Right.
And I've tried really hard to like, maybe not really hard. I've tried to be really intentional coming out of summer and into this school year with like setting them up, sort of laying the feast, if you will, for like some of our activities and some of the things I want them to learn about and be curious with and like have fun with, but not in a way that's like, let me buy you all the things and shove our home full of so much stuff.
Right.
I'm not just saying like, here's more. I don't mean it
Yeah.
in that sense, like laying a feast, but just being intentional with like what I leave out on the table for the next morning versus what I don't leave out on the table for the next morning.
Right.
Like, all devices are put away. They don't even see them
Yeah.
until we need it for something or they've earned it because of chores or whatever. Like it's kind of a silly tangent, but like I don't leave the iPad out where their eyes can see it because their
Right.
little bodies are like, what?
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Yeah.
I know not everybody can do this, but like I've purposely started leaving the front door open when I go outside because I'm hoping that they follow me.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like
I'm
one
not
of the
shutting
big,
it behind
one of the
me.
big atmospheres that that we've shifted to as a family in the last year, but I feel like you've kind of just turned it up to 11 is like being outside. Like obviously we moved to a place where we could be outside all the time. And
Right.
that has been a huge shift in our sort of family culture.
Yeah.
But I feel like even more now that homeschool has started, you're just like, yeah, if we can do it outside, we're doing it outside. I'm
Yeah.
going to open doors and open windows and, literally just push you out the door and just say, it's outside time. Like last night we walked down, there's like this kind of dirt path that eventually leads to a grocery store near our house.
Mm-hmm.
And like it had flooded. And so it was like kind of muddy and dirty. And last night we literally went out there so that they could get dirty.
Yes.
Like that was
And it's so funny. I don't want to go on a walk. Okay, well, we're going to. So come along. Can I take my shoes off?
Yeah.
Sure, that's fine. Do you care if I get my clothes dirty? No, I don't mind.
No, shoes, hands, clothes.
By the end, it's literally all over Sunny's face.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's fine. I mean, you'll have to take a shower, but that's fine.
And I just feel like that sort of like, it's almost just like a new level of laid backness, but it feels way more purposeful. Like we want our kids to just experience the fullness of life. And so like, if that means we have to shower an extra time or do a little bit more laundry, like we're not going to be annoyed by that because of the fullness we're seeing our kids experience on this side.
Right.
Another way I think we really set the atmosphere for our house, and I read this in a book, is like we need to strive, it's the atmosphere with our kids, is we need to strive to not make our kids into weathermen. And so like this author was talking about how like if we're very inconsistent in the way that we're treating or responding to our kids, like if we scream at them one time, they do something, and then the next time we're like, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We are turning our kids into emotional weathermen, trying to
predict what's coming.
And that is
embrace for impact.
And that becomes a very tension-filled atmosphere in the home.
Yeah.
And so us as parents, we are responsible to be consistent. And obviously there will be times where we fail at this and we'll need to apologize.
Yeah.
And we apologize to our kids when we do fail at that. But like overall, consistency really matters. Otherwise, our kids then become these emotional weathermen trying to determine what the atmosphere actually is in the home.
Yeah.
And then they're,
and then you think about them at age whatever, getting sent out into the world.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let me spin you around and push you out there. And your primary skill set is, if you could even call it that, is just being an emotional weather person.
Yeah.
Like that's not a great, I don't know. That's not how I would want to be sent out into the world. But all the like atmosphere stuff and homeschool stuff and outdoor stuff, I absolutely feel like I have a whole separate episode on that.
Yeah. And then Josh kind of ended with this, two things. He said, are there any objects in our house? And I think I talked about this another time too, that aren't part of the kingdom. Like, is there literally physical things that we need to remove from our house that are pulling that are removing shalom?
Right.
And I think that's a really good question to answer, because for some people it's a television, and we know families that don't have TVs in their home. For some people it might be the internet, which I know would make life kind of challenging at times, but those are questions that you need to have. And I think those are things worth talking. For some families, especially in integrated, like they don't do sports. They don't do organized sports because it will pull their kids and their time and peace in all these different directions and dictate, their lives. And so I think that's, again, I'm not saying I lean one way or the other. I think those are conversations that as a family team you need to have and, come up with your own.
And it can also be for a season. It doesn't need to be forever.
And then Josh said that his wife one time, and I just wrote these two down, don't apologize what you've warred for. So if you've warred for a healthy
ward, like we went to war.
Yeah. So if you've warred for and battled for healthy finances, like don't apologize for that, because you're like, if someone's has unhealthy finances.
Right.
And then the last thing that and so I just felt like that was really good. Like take stock of what he has done and then, don't apologize. You don't need to gloat about it, but like
don't be a jerk.
Yeah. Remember the lion and the bear, and actually look at the lion and the bear and remember them and thank God for them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And so I think an attitude of thankfulness would really help, like, you understand like where we started and where we are. And the last thing I'll say, and the last thing that Josh said, was like literally walk through your house and pray for your home. Pray that the presence of God would rest deeply and richly in your home, in your office and in your kitchen and in your bathroom and in your bedroom and in your kids' rooms.
Yes.
And on your front porch and back porch and all the places where life happens. Pray that the Spirit of God would dwell richly and deeply in those places. And that is just something powerful that I think you could do and you should do, and that I want to do with our children, whether that's once a year, once a month, like, we'll add some sort of rhythm to it, because I think that in, 10 years of doing that would have a powerful impact on their little hearts.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and even let your kids see you doing it.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, like, or I don't know a lot. I've heard of a lot, and I know that this
I don't know
is true.
very
I don't
many
really know
people.
anybody, but like, you know, you buy a new house and you walk through it and you pray for it, or you are about to have a baby for the first time, and so you have like a nursery blessing. It's like we're like taking this amazing practice and only putting it into play in very specific scenarios, and I think it should be a constant. It should just be part of how we interact with our home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like I was kind of all over the place with these notes because
It's okay,
honestly,
though,
I sort of forgot some of it because it's a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, the goal for us as believers should be to have shalom in our house.
Yeah.
Shalom in the home. Shalom in the home. And so I think that there are a lot of ways and I hope that this helps.
At least start some conversations.
Start some like internal, you know, questions to kind of see, you know, maybe where the barriers are, how you're not achieving this or whatever. And then like,
what are you chasing?
And
all
then,
those questions.
and then it also just allows you to like, if you do have shalom in your home, it allows you then to like war for it and like keep it. Like it allows you to continue to do check-ins, whether they're the emotional check-in at the end of the day, to just be like, how is this progressing? And then as soon as you feel it start to slip, you know, you don't have to Google bridges before you start trying to find out what's going on. Like there's steps in between that. And I think that just having that language of like, is there shalom in our home really helps you kind of understand like if it, you know.
Yeah. That's so good.
I think we have 2 little kids.
I mean, one was behind your chair a minute ago. She's already back
June
up.
and Sunny, do you guys want to say anything on the podcast?
I think it's just Sunny, but I don't know.
Sunny? Any sort of news updates?
Goodness.
No?
I don't think so.
Collection comes out October 14th, right? Yeah, that's the right date.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I think that's it.
Cool.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week.
Okay, I love you. Bye.